complex fractions. Complex fraction looks like a fraction in the numerator and a fraction in the denominator. So remember when we were looking at multiplying and dividing expressions, we said you take the one that you are dividing by and you flip and multiply. So when you have complex fractions, that's the same thing that you do in this case. When we do this, we hope that there'll be things that we can simplify. Well, if we go ahead and do our multiplication, we have 24 times t, that's 24t, over, we have 6 times t plus 4. Well, 24 and 6, we can reduce that. 24 is 6 times 4, so that will give us 4t over t plus 4. Let's try again. Three y squared x cubed over 8 all over 9y cubed x to the 4th over 16. So you take the one that you're dividing by and you flip and multiply. There's no addition or subtraction, so we're okay. Let's go ahead and do our multiplication. Well, before we do that, let's see if we can make this a little bit easier on ourselves. I see a 16 and an 8. Well, I know that that can reduce to a 2. I see y to the 2nd, and I see y to the 3rd, so that'll reduce to just y to the 1st. I see x to the 3rd, I see x to the 4th, so that'll reduce to just x. We made that a little bit easier on ourselves. So now we have, well, there's one more. I see a 3 and a 9, so that'll reduce to just a 3. There we go. So now we have just 1 essentially left right here, times 2, that gives us 2. We have essentially 1 left right here, times 3, that gives us 3. We have a y left, and we have an x left. Let's try again. There we go. Now in the last couple examples, we had just one piece in the denominator. There was not any addition or subtraction. Now we have some subtraction here. So before we can do our flip and multiply step, we need to clean this bottom up so that there is just one piece, so it's just one fraction. So in order to do that, we need to think of this as if it were over 1, so that we can get a common denominator, and then we can combine our fractions. Completely ignore the numerator for a second. Let's look at just the denominator. Once we get that cleaned up, we'll look at just the numerator and get it cleaned up. So if I am looking for a common denominator between x plus 1 and 1, that's going to be x plus 1. Multiply the top and bottom both by x plus 1, and then let's see what we can simplify. So if we multiply, here we'll have in our denominator 2 minus 2 times x plus 1 all over, we have our common denominator of x plus 1. Let's do that same work. Now this time let's do it in the numerator. So I have this, think of it as 2 over 1. I have x minus 1 as the denominator here. I need a common denominator, so let's use x minus 1. So that means in the numerator, as I multiply, I get 2 plus 2 times x minus 1 all over my common denominator, which was x minus 1. Now it looks a little better than it did because it's just one piece in the numerator and just one piece in the denominator, but let's clean it up some more. Let's look at distributing right here and right here and see if we can simplify those down. So that's going to give me, let's do a little arrow this way, 2 plus 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Over, I still have that x minus 1. Still have our big fraction. Let's do the same thing here. 2, negative 2 times x is minus 2x. Negative 2 times positive 1 is minus 2, all over x plus 1. Okay, well, it's looking a little bit better. Let's keep cleaning. I'll do another arrow. So this right here, 2 minus 2, that's going to cancel. So it looks like we're left with 2x over x minus 1, all over, let's do the bottom. Let's see, 2 minus 2, that's going to cancel. So now we have negative 2x over x plus 1. So now we've gone from having a complicated denominator to having just one fraction in the denominator. We've gone from having a complicated numerator to having one fraction in the numerator. Now that we have one fraction and one fraction, we can do our flip and multiply step. So we take the piece we're dividing by and we flip and multiply. So that's going to look like 2x over x minus 1 times x plus 1 over negative 2x. Well, this 2x and this 2x will cancel. This will leave me with a negative 1, so I can't forget that piece. But then it looks like we're going to have x plus 1 over negative x minus 1. If I were to distribute this through, it would give me negative x plus 1, which is not quite the same as x plus 1, so this is going to be finished right here. Let's try again. Okay, so I need one piece in the numerator and one piece in the denominator so that I can then flip and multiply. So let's look at our denominator. Pretend this is over 1. So I'm going to need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply by x. So now I have a common denominator of x. So if we do that, let's do our arrow, we'll go this way. So don't worry about the numerator yet, we'll clean that up in a minute. So here I have a common denominator now of x. So that's going to give me x plus 4 all over x. So now let's see if we can clean up our numerator sum. So I have a 4 on this side, I have an x on this side, so this one needs an x and this one needs a 4. So that's going to give me x squared minus 4 all over 4x. Let's clean up a little bit more. So we have x squared minus 4 all over 4x. And then we have x plus x right here. That'll give us 2x plus 4 all over x. Now we've got it down to one fraction in the numerator and one fraction in the denominator. So we take the piece we're dividing by and we flip and multiply. Now we can start factoring to see if there's anything that we can cancel. X squared minus 4 is a difference of squares, so we can do x minus 2 and x plus 2. 2x plus 4 has a 2 in common, so we can factor that out and we'll be left with x plus 2. That x plus 2 and that x plus 2 can cancel. X right here and x right here can cancel. So it looks like we are left with, in the numerator, x minus 2, and in the denominator we have 4 times 2, see that 4 right there and that 2 right there, so that's going to give us 8. Let's try again. So this one at first does not look like a complex fraction because we don't have that fraction in a fraction. However, we do have some negative exponents. So before we can do anything, we need to clean up those negative exponents. So that's going to look like a to the negative 1 means that we need to move that to the denominator. The 4 is not to the negative 1. The 4 exponent would technically be a 1. So 4 over a is what that's going to look like. And then we have the b to the negative 1, so that's going to look like 1 over b. All over, well, a minus b to the negative 1 looks like 1 over a minus b. So now you can see our complex fractions. When we cleaned up our negative exponents, we have fractions in the numerator now and fractions in the denominator. The good news is we only have one piece in the denominator, so we don't really need to do too much more cleaning there. However, we do need to clean up the numerator so that we can get just one fraction instead of two. So we need a common denominator. The common denominator between a and b would be ab. So this one needs a b, this one needs an a, so this one needs a b, this one needs an a. So that means we would have 4b minus a all over ab in our numerator, and then 1 over a minus b in our denominator. Well, let's see what we can do from there. You take the piece that you are dividing by, and you flip and multiply. So that's going to leave us with 4b minus a times a minus b all over ab. And it doesn't look like anything will simplify, so that will be our final answer.